Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about cartoon. Do you remember getting up on a Saturday morning? You'd like run downstairs. There were like 8 channels on your like giant deep television set. And on Saturday morning, what would you say was your favorite, Rufus? Like, what do you ran down? What are you putting on?
I mean, it was definitely the Warner Brothers. It's like, the Bugs Bunny show was on for like an hour and a half. That was like dominated the thing. It was just always funny how, any day for school couldn't drag your ass out of bed, but somehow magically, Saturday, 6:30 in the morning, sitting there.
No doubt. In general,
the lineup used to start at like, I think 6:30 or 7. There was a cartoon called the Groovy Ghoulies.
Oh yeah. What was up with them? What was their story?
They were just sort of like they're sort of like a psychedelic, what do you call it? Like the Universal monsters, that they lived in horrible hall, and you had like the resident vampire, and there was, who actually was voiced, Drac was voiced by Larry Storch of Agarn fame.
Wow.
And then you had, what was it?
What was it called? The one with Jimmy and HR Puffin stuff? And
I never liked them.
What are you kidding?
I hated them. It's like there was Sigmund and the Sea Monster, and which.
Oh, come on! You didn't like Sigmund?
I hated them.
Come on! It was hilarious. It was like this big sea monster. He's living down by the coast in California, and he was kind of like, remember Snuffleupagus, on Sesame Street, where like in the beginning nobody could see Snuffy, and it was kind of like Sigmund was like that too. Like the nosy neighbor just pops through the moment that the sea monster.
I remember wasn't Paul Lynde the neighbor?
Was he? I did not know that. Yeah, Paul Lynde. There's another. I'm assuming he's passed by now, right? I mean,
not only is he dead, he's decomposed. He is.
Yes. Well,
I think he died like 20 years ago or something.
Paul Lynde?
Yeah. Another guy who I think cashed out young.
Yeah. It was kind of like back in the 70s, that was as close as you could come to coming out of the closet as a gay person, right? Like you were so heavily insinuated that,
Yeah, you had him, you had Rick Taylor. You had, who was the other guy? He was on that game show, Match Game. He was always, what the hell is this? Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh yeah. He was on Hollywood Squares too, right?
No, that's Paul Lynde.
I guess they all were at one point.
Paul Lynde.
There's like 8 stars in the 1970s.
I think we were discussing that once too. It's like, unfortunately, most of the tapes of those game shows were wiped because it's like nobody saw any of the value in it, and people have this false notion that, it's like, what do you mean? It's like, the Hollywood Squares are still on, the game show channel and everything. That's only like 5% of what's left. It's like,
it's pretty crazy to think,
Well, it was like, because I was reading about that. I know we're going to go off on a tangent here, and they were talking about just like the cost of the tapes. Because the tapes were, people think, a videotape, like the VCR tapes. Yeah, but like the old studios, you've probably seen them. They were called, I think quadruplex or something. The tapes were like 2 inches wide, and it's like they were on these huge reels that weighed like 15 or 20 pounds. I mean, it's like, where are you going to store this stuff?
Yeah, no doubt.
And then plus it's,
climate controlled only, right? They didn't do that back in the day.
Well, that's the thing too. Of the tapes that survive, a lot of the tapes still survive, but that's like that would be like a whole nother discussion for like film preservation and everything. Because I remember I was talking to remember the Magic Guard?
Yeah, sure. The Chuckle Patch.
I was talking to Carolyn Paulo once, and what?
You were talking to the 2 stars of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How did that happen? Are you that much of a groupie?
No. It's, I don't know if they still do. This was when I can't use real names now. I got to think of a name for my son. This is when Johan was still.
Yes, young Johan.
Yeah, this is when Johan.
Sometimes he would throw down his violin, right, violently, and then go with you to these sort of things, these events. He would chuck the violin.
This is when Johan was still like a little munchkin.
Young Johan.
And the Carol and Paula used to actually do like concerts and stuff, and they were performing in Baby.
So you took him. You're so retro, dude.
So we took JoJo to Johan to see the Magic Garden show because he used to love that show. It was pretty cool though. It's like, they had like, the original mushrooms from the set on the stage and everything. And, after the show, there was like a meet and greet. So we got their autographs. I got my picture taken. And
yeah, that was cool stuff. Half the joy of being a parent is turning the kids on to the stuff that you loved when you were a kid, right? I remember we used to have this theater in my house when we lived in, years ago when we lived in New Jersey on the 3rd floor. I turned it into like a home theater.
What did you look?
And we'd go up there and we'd put the Ramones on and we just dance like lunatics, And it was like golden moments, you know what I mean? It's so fun to be able to like, or the Dr. Seuss books, right? Like you saw them when you were growing up.
It's funny too because
then you turn your kids onto them,
Yeah, it's like there are a couple of JoJo's favorites, and you can still like almost recite them verbatim, It's like,
oh, the places you'll go.
Yeah, he used to love
that. Is so drilled into my kid's head.
He used to love
the Sneetches. The Sneetches, the best Sneetches on the beaches.
Yep, and there was he used to love the Sleep Book, and it was
Sleep Book.
The news just came in from the county of Kent that a little bug by the name of Van Vleck is yawning so wide you can look right down his neck. This may not be very important, I know, but it is. So I'm telling you so.
That stuff was very, very fun, Dr. Seuss.
Well, anyway, back to cartoons, and because this is going to be like our age.
All right. We're getting too far out there.
Bickford and Douglas Fairbanks.
Come on, Rufus. Reel it in now. Reel it in. All right, let's go. Come on. Here we go.
Yeah, so
cartoons.
That
Warner Brothers.
Popeye used to be on. Yeah, it was fun.
I kind of related to Bugs. Did you?
On, the channel and the affordability. You had like Channel 9 was like Davy and Goliath, where Channel 11 was usually like Popeye. The old black and white ones where you had the doors.
Those were great. Clothes. Yeah. Popeye's about to go into the public domain.
Nah, they wouldn't let it.
Are you serious? Maybe Disney will buy it back or whatever.
That'd be King Features. I doubt they would let that go because just like the amount of merchandising and everything that, the money to be made from that.
Yeah.
But,
they jump in, save old Popeye.
Yeah. So then usually it was dominated by, Bugs Bunny. They used to be,
my mama done told me.
My mama done told me. For dinner.
Classic. What was your favorite one? What about the one where he's hiding the gangster and he's like,
he's not in the snow. What? He's in the snow. When I turn on the gas and my friend Rocky was in there. Yeah.
You might, Rabbit, you might.
Yeah, but it's like, some kind of marketing or statistics formula that I should be using for everyday life.
Yeah, right. Now you can remember, right?
Yeah, and it's like
the Bugs Bunny, every line. Yeah. What about how it like introduced people to opera and stuff?
Yeah, about the Barbara Seville and the
Barbara of Seville. Yeah.
But oddly enough, it was like the ones that weren't on Saturday mornings were like the old Tom and Jerry's and Droopies and Barney Bear.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry.
Weekdays after school stuff, like like the Flintstones. That they were really weren't on Saturday mornings. That was
Tom and Jerry kind of delivered the straight dope, right? They were like, we're not going to waste any time with plot lines. We're just going to show you like anvils hitting dogs and cats in the head.
I think
And,
that's what
violence, kill, the
yeah,
itchy and
it's
scratch.
Jerry so great was it's like I think getting like blasted in the face with a shotgun. It's kind of what I'm looking for, like intangible,
Little desensitizing, yes.
where it's like Tom and Jerry relied more on like everyday implements, so it's like everybody could feel like getting stabbed with a fork or getting
hit
nailed
with a shovel,
or
yeah,
shovel or
right.
something. It's like
Right. Yeah, exactly.
there's the wacky races and the one with Oh, don't tell me you don't remember the wacky races.
No, I remember the wacky races. Absolutely. What are you
Yeah,
kidding?
there was
It wasn't my favorite. I'll be honest with
when
you.
they were flying around in the planes. Stop the pigeon.
Yeah, I like that one. I totally dug that.
And then there's
Trying to think. What about Spider-Man, the original series?
a lot of that, like Hanna-Barbera stuff. To me, that's like kind of where like the Saturday morning cartoon started eroding, because I think it was what's the word I'm looking like oversaturation. It's like that's like when they came out with like the Laugh Olympics. Remember that one?
Yeah, absolutely. The Hanna-Barbera series were funny because they would cheap out on the backgrounds, right? Like you'd see the guy running, and they just roll the same tree
past the TV
sequence
like
17 times, Right, yeah. So there was that, They were funny, but they were cheap. They were like Yogi Bear, right? That was a
Barry Hams, Magilla Gorilla.
Magilla Gorilla, yes.
Wouldn't be the 80s. This would actually be going more into like might even be the 60s, but like, we caught the reruns. Remember the banana splits?
Oh, yeah. They would drive up in the funky cars, right? That looked like bananas.
Yep.
And
It's
kinda
like
crash.
and you get that song in your head, and it's like,
Yeah. G-Force. Do you remember that one?
I never went into the superhero stuff. You remember us? It's like, when we used to, like, with all the comic books. It's like, I was always like going for like Richie Rich and, the Donald Duck Adventures. And I never got into the superhero stuff.
Yeah. There was Bugs Bunny, right? That was a great one. Another Warner Brothers classic.
This is how it's like, again, it's just like the warp perspective. It's like, you remember where we used to go for our comic books. There used to be a store in Huntington. It was like bargain books, and somehow there's this guy would like all the stationery stores and drug stores or whatever. They'd like sell this guy the unsold copies, and then he'd just get up. And I remember it's like we used to get them. They used to be like, this is at the time when like the cover price on a comic book was like 35 cents or something.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
it was like, we used to get our comic books for like 15 cents. And I remember you and me going in there sometimes. And even at 15 cents a piece, I'd be blowing like 10, 15 bucks. It's like,
yeah, no doubt about it, man. I mean, I had a stack of comic books, like, I'm going to say 200, 300 comic books. My sister then swiped them for her own kids' benefit. So, they're in the attic somewhere, I think, at my sister's house. But my favorite was The Flash. If you're going to go into the comic book tangent, I would have to say, like, I don't know. It was just the coolest thing. He could run, and then he could, like, vibrate through walls. So now when they did the movie of him, it totally stunk. It was like, what a letdown, It was like, man.
Yeah, but this is just funny because it's like, it goes to show how like perspectives have changed. It's like, So I just remember being like very disappointed when our comic book place got turned into a porn shop. It's like,
yeah, that's for sure, right? It's funny. You don't really see any of the, I was walking out of CVS today and I noticed that the magazine rack is like the size that it used to be. Who's buying an actual physical magazine?
Yeah, well,
who's stopping to, I gotta have
it's all, it's like, think about like, whoops, you just lost you. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Yeah, the ... song, music, right? Anyway, so
yeah, so Yeah, what usually signaled the end of the Saturday morning cartoon parade was Fat Albert, because Fat Albert didn't come on until like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, by that time, man, you better hope your parents are still sleeping or something, because you got to be doing
it's like, you hear
Saturday.
It's like, you hear that's like, for some reason, that was like my mother's breaking point. She'd just be like, go outside.
Get outside and play like a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see that phrase being slung around anymore.
Huh?
You don't see that phrase being slung around anymore. Get outside and play.
Oh,
and,
God. Yeah. I mean, well, look, I mean, you probably grew up that. That's funny because I think now parents today, they have some kind of like buzzword, like, it's free range parenting or something. It's like when we were kids, it was just being a normal kid.
Right.
Now it's like, I just remember it would be like, summer vacation. That was another thing. It's like, the game shows used to be on in the mornings and everything. And then it's like, once The Price is Right went off, and by then it was like 11 o'clock or something. Again, and my mother would be like, go get outside. It's like, go see if Chris or Glenn are around. And it would be the kind of thing where it's like, around like 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the morning, your mother would kick you out. It would be like, unless you're bleeding or on fire, don't come home until you hear like the whistle go, because they used to have the 5 o'clock whistle thing. Yeah, it's like you'd hear that and would be like, oh, okay, now I gotta go.
Here's one for you. Do you remember staying home and like being like, I faked a fever or whatever it was, and you got to stay home? And like, you're like, I'm just going to watch TV all day. But back in the day,
once the game,
like there was cartoons in the morning, there was cartoons after 4:30, right? The after school specials or what have you.
It would be
like during the daytime, it was like the most painful soap operas and QVC or whatever it was, back in the day. But there was nothing interesting on. You were just like, by 11:30, you're like, I wish I went to school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be like, you start off strong, and it's like, because you still had like, the
morning cartoons, man. It's going to last me all day.
Yeah, but then, and then it's like, right around like it must have been like around 11:30. This all the game started drying up, and it's like, oh shit. It's like, what I get sit here watching like Dinah Shore and Merv and
exactly. Old ladies talking.
As the world turns, Ryan's Hope, The Edge of Night. It's like,
there was this whole like culture, because back then it was still a lot of like the man worked and the woman stayed home. So during the day, the women had, reign of the television channels. And, of course that ended.
My mother was, I remember my mother saying once, it's like, she was actually, it's going to sound strange, right? Like she was upset when Kennedy got shot. Not so much because Kennedy got shot, but because like As the World Turns got preempted. It's like, they canceled, like for the rest of the week, they like canceled all the soap operas, because they had to bring everybody up to speed with Kennedy.
That was, they had these absurd plot lines, right? And like you could tell the guy just learned the lines at 3:30 p.m. that day. Mm-hmm. And he was like, everybody had a scotch all the time, right?
Yeah. It's like, but it's kind of the same. I shouldn't say it's the same, but it's like, it's like all those damn Hallmark movies. It's always like the Hallmark Christmas movies. Oh, the Hallmark Christmas movies are on now. And it's like, it's always the same thing. It's like, some small town girl leaves small town, gets job with like, Ogilvy and Mather or some big, like, company in, this big city. She comes home for Christmas and like, now she's like, divorced, and she comes home and blah, blah. And it's like, falls in love with like her old high school jock boyfriend, who has like some shitty little coffee shop.
It's like every Christmas woman rom-com.
Yeah, every single one of those
85% of
movies.
them, at least.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's like, it's either some chick owns like a shitty little bookstore that's going broke.
A bookstore, yes. It has to be a bookstore.
Just owns some crappy little coffee shop that's barely eking by.
Yeah, right. And like life gets turned around.
They're both driving BMWs.
Right, exactly. You can't defer the big things.
You know, like somebody owns a pet shop, and it's like she's rolling around in a Cadillac Escalade. It's like, how many fucking canaries do you sell? It's not,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
but
What was that story that
what?
you were telling about the mob guy who's like he bought
What?
the Cadillacs? It's like, yeah, this is where I sell.
Oh, that was that was on an old radio show. Yeah, there was
What was that routine?
yeah, there was some guy where I forgot what his name was, but apparently, the Godfather gets audited by the IRS.
That's the setup.
And it's like, the IRS guy's like, I see, it's like, sir, for a man with like, a gross income of $160,000, this is back in like, the 50s. Yeah, so it's like, for a man with a gross income of $162,000, I'm going to, where it says occupation, I'm going to need more than a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, yeah, the guy's like, I'm a pretzel salesman. You sold $160,000 worth of pretzel. It's like, I got a good location. What do you want? And he's like, yeah, I see that like your pretzel card costs $14,000. You can buy an air-conditioned Eldorado for that kind of money. That's what my pretzel card is, an air-conditioned Eldorado with an umbrella on it.
Classic.
And he's like, I see it's like, insurance, insurance, $45,000. What happened to you that cost $40,000? Like, nothing. That's what costs $40,000. It's like, it's like outside help. It's like, you pay 12 men $1,000 a week. So, do you know how many guys it takes to push an Eldorado pretzel cart? It's like,
everybody needs their taste.
It's a Cadillac. Why don't you drive it? Because then it would be a push cart.
Classic. Yeah. So, but it was fun, man. Those are just memories you really are never going to live anything like that again. You're so carefree, you run down. And
Jojo, or Johan. Yeah, I feel bad for Johan because it's, he's not going to get that same thing. Just like, because.
Well, every generation has their thing. Like we weren't into the Ninja Turtles.
Memories of, stretching out, watching Curious George in bed and, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah. I don't know. Somehow it's just, I guess because he doesn't have any brothers. I can't say brothers or sisters because my sister was not part of the Saturday morning cartoon brigade. That was me and my brother. Yeah. I don't know if it's like a guy thing.
What would she watch? What would she watch?
My sister was
Wonderama. Do you remember that? Wonderama?
Oh, yeah. That was Sunday mornings. Yep. Wonderama. That's another one of those shows where all the tapes are gone. But,
every last one?
What?
Every last Wonderama is gone?
Yeah, except for like little snippets. Most of that shit's gone. Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah, that's true. Like
that's the two
video, I guess, right? They just erased it.
Right. Because again, that's what I was going back to. It's like, those big monster tapes. You talk about how technology has come down in price. So, we used to go to like service merchandise and you'd buy like a case of the VHS tapes for like what?
The VHS tapes, yes. And you knew they were going to last forever, right?
Yeah. And like, you buy a case of VHS tapes for like $10 where it's like, those big tapes that the studios used. Those things are like about $1,000 a piece, not adjusted for inflation. Right? Yeah, so it's like $1,000 in like 1970. That was a substantial chunk of change.
Yeah, I guess the new technology allowed them to just cheaply tape over it and do it again next week, right?
Right. So it's like, the shows that really, children's show, game shows, those were the two that were like really took the hit, which is kind of what makes, me, I'm a fan of Mr. Rogers. Yeah, but that's what makes Mr. Rogers unique as far as children.
PBS.
Because, Fred Rogers, his attitude was, as long as we're going through